Well, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you in your part of the world. This is Spencer Uncensored. It is a special little episode that I do every week here in the Unshakable group, Unshakable Real Estate Agent group. I just come on live, chat, discuss maybe some of the things that I have seen over the last week or so and or challenges that I've seen and share with you guys tips, tricks, things necessary to help you grow your profit, grow your productivity, and grow your purpose. So that's what this is all about, the Unshakable Agent, and we have an entire program just for you guys. So tonight, I want to share two things. Tonight, we're going to talk about one mindset piece and one piece of mechanics. Everybody loves to talk about the mechanics. I typically seem to be falling a lot more in conversation around mindset, especially now with what's going on with market. The world's just seems. I don't know why we're disconnecting. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if I'm guessing I'm here. But in any event, let me make sure. All right. So the world just seems weird, right? It just things are not the way that always been, and we all have this sense that things are going to change, things are going to be different. And because of that, people are going into a fight, flight, or freeze response. So we're going to, tonight, most of the time I talk about mindset quite a bit, and I do believe that it really is like 80% of success. Much of it is a mental game, which is why I have done so much studying. There's so many books and things right around the corner here. I've got 6 different certifications just in coaching. It's designed to help me make sure that I understand how people think and how to help them untie the knots that's going on inside of their mind and what's keeping them from moving forward. So mindset's a big deal, but tonight I'm going to make sure you also get some content around mechanics, like an how-to. But I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. I want you to stick around so that you can hear the whole thing. We have been averaging around 20 minutes, and this is episode 46 if I've done my math properly, which means we're coming up on an entire year of doing this. And it's actually been kind of cool to splice it all up, put out the content, drive the social, have a lot more interactions. We've been having a good time doing it. And this past week has been very productive for us. We've been very focused. We've been adding people. We've been having presentations, helping people understand what Unshakable Agent is, why they should be a part of it, and how it's going to impact their business going into 2024. Now, I see Dan Sermon jumped in here. He's one of our agents over at UHG. So I kind of live in a parallel universe. I have Unshakable and I have UHG. So anyway, I'm thrilled that you're here too, buddy. In any event, as we move forward here, let me share with you a mindset piece. But I have to tell you a story first and how this came up. So last week, actually earlier this week, actually I think it might have been yesterday, I offered to several real estate agents a best first quarter ever challenge. I don't know what your numbers look like in the first quarter for the entirety of your career. I'm just going to say, if you knew that there was a formula that was going to help you make sure that you beat your previous record, would you be interested? And so I shared the simple formula. We have 5 holiday tactics with a bonus tactic. We also have daily huddles. We got all these different pieces to the pie, and it's bound to ensure that you have your best first quarter ever. Can I tell you that I had absolutely no one committed to that offer? Seems a little surprising. And the reason why it's surprising is because are there not agents who are actually committed to their own success? And so I had this conversation with another coach today. We were discussing it, kind of figuring out what we could do to help make it a little bit better, do differently, that kind of thing. And they proposed is it an issue around accountability? Do these agents struggle with accountability? And I'm going to say yes. At the same time, though, we're going to go a little bit deeper and we're going to use the Unshakable Framework. Some of you know it, by the way, as the Qualified Champions Framework, but I'm just going to the MF code. They've gone by all these different names, but it's the same as the Unshakable Framework. Accountability is building block number 3. So if you wrote these things down, you would see 5 blocks, and the middle one is accountability on the mindset side. But for us to feel and have a mindset of accountability where we own our stuff, we have to understand that that's going to only come when we have very strong clarity. Focus. The focus, though, only happens when it's rooted in a very strong commitment. So if you're dealing with a group of agents and they're not really loving the accountability, which, by the way, block number 4, what sits on top of accountability is belief. If they don't believe they can do this and they don't have the confidence to do this, it's because they aren't necessarily owning their own shit. They don't own their stuff. It's like, I don't want to step into my power. I can't own it. Somebody else is going to have to save me in this situation because I'm just lost. But if I look deeper, the reason they're lost is because they have no focus. They have a fractured focus. They're all over the place. They're every cool little shiny object suddenly flashes in their face, and the internet and news and media and life in general is designed to constantly get you off track. And so if you don't have a focus, anything goes, and it impacts my accountability because I can't own it all, because I can't do it all. Therefore, I don't perform very well. Therefore, I don't get any progress. This is the Unshakable Framework. I'm giving it to you right now. But at the very core, underneath that focus, the mindset of focus, is a mindset of commitment. It always starts with that decision. Now, I'm pretty sure we talked about it on here a few weeks ago. Might have been a couple months ago. But we talked about how to build threshold and how to create it. Threshold creates commitment. Reasons before results. Now, I know some of you guys are conditioned really well to, it's reasons or results. I'm going to tell you that with enough reasons, you can create results. It's the age-old question that I'm constantly looking to answer and help you answer. Why bother? Why bother doing the things I don't want to do? Why bother doing the things that's in front of me right now? That it's not, some of it's hard, some of it's easy, but why bother doing any of it? If you can't answer that question with solid commitment, well, of course you're going to have a fractured focus. I'm not going to count for anything because I'm all over the place. And my beliefs now are all over. I have no foundation. I'm like a big blob. Wandering generality, as it was called by Jim Rohn, I'm pretty sure. Could have been Zig Ziglar that used that term. Doesn't matter. But you're never going to be able to progress or move forward until you get all of those pieces, those building blocks, got to be there. For you tonight, for the mindset piece of this tonight, I just want you to think a little bit about your commitment. What am I really after here? And am I committed to that outcome? Maybe thinking about the whole year is a little too big. What are you committed to this week? What are you committed to today? What am I focused on right now that I have to do? What must be done for me to grow? It's absolutely at the level of not just passion, but absolute obsession that this is the thing that I'm going to do. No one's going to be able to take you off track. When you have that level of commitment, it is really, really hard to stop that person. So if you're feeling out of touch with your power, it's probably because you're unfocused. And it's the disfocus is coming from the fact that you're probably not committed to a specific and measurable outcome. If you don't learn anything or get anything from me tonight, That's what I want you to remember. What am I committed to? Why bother? I have 62 reasons why my goal is going to happen in this coming year. And I review them on a regular basis. It helps me resettle on the commitment. It helps me to re-engage emotionally with the commitment. And when I have it, my focus is a lot better. I don't get derailed as easy. I don't have as many distractions. I don't get as delusional about the dumb stuff that shows up and I'm like, oh, I got to go work on this. And it doesn't actually move my outcome forward. My focus is on point when I have my commitment. When my focus is on point, I know that I can own my results. It's mine. Nobody's coming to save me. My accountability is in gear. I can then have the right belief systems to be able to move myself forward. And then from there, I can then start following the feedback with my flexibility. All of that is the Unshakable Framework on the mindset side of it. Now I'm going to shift gears kind of hard. I think I've said enough there. I think everybody understands. Commitment's a big deal. If we're not engaging, probably because of a commitment. But let's talk about something that's a little bit more practical, like just straight up doing the real estate business. I believe that might be helpful. We're seeming to be having a lot of buyers these days who are they're talking about lending, they're talking about buying a house, but we seem to be having a very clunky handoff from the agent to the lender, and then from the lender back to the agent. So I want to talk about the handoff conversation because I just had it with a top agent today about how to refine it and make it a little bit better. And they actually do a very good job of it. I just want to share this because I think a lot of other agents struggle with this. Now, I'm going to tell you, this part of the business is dear to me because it's how I got started in the business. I remember very distinctly in 1999, yes, in the last century, when fax machines were a thing and alphanumeric pagers, right? Like my Remax office would send us pages and let us know X certain lead called in on a certain listing. Yeah, that's how business was done back in '99. We had one computer with the MLS in the office, and I would go in. We had to stand in line and wait to be able to go look up property. It was, yeah. But back then, even back then, just like today, we had buyers, and buyers need to be able to qualify for the loans. And so I was, when I first got started, the agent that brought me in, she said, here, and hands me a stack of paper. And the stack of paper, each sheet had a lead on it. Because she had internet lead generation going on way back then. And so, way ahead of the times. And so, leads would come in with their, like every line was a different part of the questionnaire, right? So it would, like, street, city, state, right, zip code, like all the things were phone number, email address, first name, last name, like all of that was in individual lines all the way down the sheet. And so I had a big stack of paper. She handed it to me. She says, here, call these people and send them to Gina. Now you're probably having the same question I have right now, and that, who's Gina? Of course, if you're following along, you probably know that Gina was the lender that we were working with. That was the lender that she was working with. And so I didn't know who Gina was. I didn't know anything about financing for that matter. I was 23 or so. I mean, I didn't know anything about this stuff. She said, just call them, talk to them, tell them you saw that they were interested in buying a home and that they need to call Gina Bush. Gina Bush, I think, is still in the business, by the way. Midlands Mortgage in Columbia, South Carolina. Shout out to her. Anyway, Gina would get all these people from the agent I was working with, and I had to call and like get this. Over time, we developed an entire system for this. What I want you to understand is that the relationship with your lender matters a lot, and how that baton pass happens is deeply, deeply important. Think about this. Think of it like a relay race. And the reason why some of your buyers are dropping off is because this relay race conversation is not going properly. There's two parts to this I'm going to share with you tonight. So this is mechanical. This is very... Once again, I've done the balloon somehow. Anyway, this is mechanical, okay? This is very nitty-gritty. But if you'll take some notes, you're going to learn something today about how to do a better pass off to the lender, okay? Two parts to this. Number one, if I was doing a baton pass, I need to make sure that the lender is moving at the same pace I am. Think about this. One person's running around the track, and as they come around, this person that's waiting needs to get running and then be able to run at the same pace so that I could hand them the baton. Do you know how your lender operates? Your lenders, who they are, what they specialize in, what their follow-up game is like. Do they have the same level of urgency that you do? Do they understand how you do business and how they can help you? If you don't have a strong relationship between the two of you, it's going to feel clunky to the buyer. The buyer's going to be like, oh, okay, I got some momentum because this agent's telling me what I should do. Got to do this. Okay, let me reach out to them. And when they do call the lender like it goes to voicemail. Then they might call back. If they do call back, it's like, and it feels very clunky. There's no clean handoff. Now you can manage a lot of that with your expectations and explaining to them the process. But you have to do a really good job of getting with your lender and having a relationship that matters, that they understand how this is going to go. I did a lot of deals with a lender when I was in South Carolina, Columbia, there with Lamont. Lamont, I still have him in my phone as Money Man. Money Man, Lamont Watson, was given to me was referred to me by another agent, Samantha, who now is here in Amelia Island. I live in Jacksonville. She moved here to Amelia Island, but at the time she was up there and I had this deal that just wasn't coming together. It was falling short, and she said, you need to call my man Lamont. I talked to Lamont. I love Lamont's style. I love the way that he worked, and we worked really, really well. Here's how we knew it worked well. Because when I handed him a lead, he would either get it financed or give them a plan and then give me the feedback. And vice versa, by the way, that goes two ways. He knew that if he gave me a qualified lead, I could close that lead to buy a house. It wasn't a waste of time for him to give me a pre-qual letter. So, in any event, we had a really good relationship, and so because of that, we were able to actually close quite a few deals. That's how we roll. Pay attention to the relationship you have with your lenders. It's critical. It's important. It's a big deal. Now, assuming that that's in place and that the lender is able to go at the same pace you are, you guys can hand the baton and keep the momentum moving, because there's a lot of momentum in buyers. There's an emotional wave that gets going, right? It's like a swing set. Once that rhythm gets going, you want to keep it going. So let's assume now you've got that piece of the puzzle taken care of. How do we send someone to the lender and raise the possibility that they're actually going to call the lender? That seems to be the issue, is it not? We send people to the lender, they don't talk to the lender reaches out, it's like ghosting, and then it's like it takes forever to get anything going. Well, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, you need to set an appointment for a meeting. If you're not doing buyer appointments, buyer presentations where you sit down and do a buyer agreement, you're probably going to be doing this the hard way. You should talk to your brokerage about how to do buyer presentations. That's number one. Because if I use the buyer presentation and I have it scheduled, well, then I'm going to be able to use that timeline to help narrow when they're going to talk to the lender, because they got to do it before we meet. So step one is setting an appointment. Step two is selling them on why they need to be calling. People think agents, for some reason, we talk to agents all the time, and it's like, well, it's just common sense, Spencer. Shouldn't they know they got to call the lender? Listen, you have got to sell people. Influence. If you don't like the word sell, you've got to influence them on why they have to call the lender. Influence. Okay, so here's what influence looks like. I got to give them the reason why they got to call the lender. Multiple reasons. Number one, well, actually, before I give you the 3 reasons why you should call the lender before we meet when we get together at 5 o'clock on Friday. So today's Tuesday. Let's pretend I set an appointment for Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock. Okay? Before I give you the 3 reasons, let me tell you something. If you ever listen to me have conversation with buyers at all, you're going to hear me on a repetitious way. I'm going to be saying things like, well, a lot of agents would do this. However, this is what I like to do. This is what you're going to find if you go when you go talk to other agents. I'm not going to do that to you. I constantly make this differentiation because I need people to understand that any agent would take you out and do all this stuff easy, but I want to do this for a reason. And so by doing that, I'm educating them on the reasons for why they need to have this conversation. Another piece, before I give you the 3, stick with me. I do some differentiation by sharing things like other agents do it this way. This is what we prefer to do so that you can, right? So that. Yes, it sounds like I'm repeating it, but I'm doing it on purpose because I need it to get in your head. Here's what I'm suggesting. So that, boom, reasons are shared. Okay? The other piece, before I give you the 3, is that you have to understand today, right now, there's so much uncertainty. And people are scared. They're worried about what might be said. If I call this lender and I don't know this person, they're worried about it. They're worried that maybe their credit is not as good, or they're worried that something's going to come up that they're not going to be able to buy. Maybe they're just worried. Like we live in a very anxious society. I think like 44% of the society right now is on some sort of antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. Like, what? Yeah. Almost half of the people you're going to talk to are in some sort of a constant state of anxiousness or depression. That's wild, but that's the truth, and you're going to have to deal with that. So these buyers, you're getting ready to go send them off to some random person that they don't know and talk about all their finances. If you don't know how to set someone at ease about why this is the best thing for them, it's going to help put them in the driver's seat. You've got to come from that mindset, folks. The mindset is critical on how to do this pass-off. This is not to harm you. It is to inform you and put you in the driver's seat. Unlike other agents who would take you out, show you property, and get you frustrated in the process, and then once you find something, then you're behind the 8 ball and have to make hard financial decisions that might actually cost you thousands. I don't want to do that to you. Our first step before we get together on Thursday at 4 o'clock is you're going to have a conversation with, I see a little fire thing on here, so I'm going to mention Parker Maddox with Keller Mortgage. This guy, he's got all of his shit together. He's a great guy. You should talk to him. And the reason for that, and I'm going to give you 3. There's 3 reasons why you need to have this conversation before we get together on Thursday. Number 1, if you guys are writing things down, this is what you want to write down. By the way, this is free for everybody, or at least for now. At some point, I'm going to take these videos and move them to Unshakable, and then they won't be out for everybody anymore. Anyway, if you know anybody that could use this kind of information, send them to the group. It's unshakablegroup.com. Send them to the group. I'd love to have you guys. But anyway, 3 reasons you should have this conversation before we get together on Thursday at 4 o'clock. The first one is the obvious one. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're not looking above or below whatever price point you qualify for. The truth is, you might actually qualify for more than you realize and still not want to spend that much. If that's the case, you can talk to lender, right? So like Parker, you can call and when you talk to Parker and you find out that you qualify for more than you realize, you can actually work that down based off of a payment range to get a better sense for what you want to buy. Because one of the first questions I'm going to ask you on Thursday is, what's the price point you would like to be in? That just makes sense, right? And I gotta tie it down right there too. I need them to understand we're just doing this because I need you to make sure you're in the driver's seat and you know the price point and you're in control of what you want to buy. Second reason why you want to get this taken care of before we get together on Thursday at 4 o'clock is because not every house actually qualifies for every loan. Most buyers are not aware of that, and many agents don't tell buyers that. I don't want to do that to you, because if you find something that doesn't qualify for the type of loan that you can get, it's just going to cause you a lot of heartache. And there's nothing worse than getting your heart set on something specific and then find out you're not able to pull through on it. It's not a good feeling, and I don't enjoy doing that to anyone. Agents do it all the time. I'm not going to be that agent. So, when you talk to Parker, when you talk to Lamont, when you talk to Gina, those are just some of the names I've shared tonight. When you call them, you're going to talk about different types of loans and what's possible for you. You're also going to find out maybe that you should put down a little bit more, or maybe you'll find out you don't have to put down as much as you originally thought. You may find out that there's some things that we could do to clean up and polish some things, and in 2 or 3 months you'll be in a much better position. We won't know until you have that conversation. But we need to know what type of loan you qualify for and all the ancillary pieces. For instance, when we find the right house, not if, when we find the right house, we're going to actually have to put in there what type of loan you're going with. In addition to that, if you know you also need assistance with closing costs or assistance with maybe buying down the rate and making your payment better, we would need to know that up front so that we can craft an offer that helps you and puts you in a position to win. That's number 2. Number three, honestly, it's as simple as this, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. In real estate, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. And so when we go out here and find the right house, we're going to have to present a pre-qualification or a pre-approval letter to go along with it. What that's going to do is just prove that we have actually done our homework and that we can buy the house. Any home, this is critical, folks, any home that's priced right and looks right is going to sell quickly. And I want to make sure that you are prepared for that, even in this market. Friends, learn to say that one, even in this market. If you put that in a lot of the conversations you have, it'll stick with people's mind, right? So if I say things like, yeah, you can get an affordable payment, even in this market. Some of them, watch their eyes, by the way. They're going to end up doing what's called a transgenerational search. Their brain starts going, what? They're going to start looking around for a second. You have interrupted their pattern because they're like, what do you mean, even in this market? Yes, even in this market. Some of them are going to ask the question, what do you mean, even in this market? Like, what's going on? Either way, it's an opportunity to have a conversation. But we need this piece of paper to solidify your ability to purchase so that we can come in with a stronger offer. If it's priced right and looks right, it's going to sell quickly, and I want to make sure that you are in the best possible position. Rather than do what other agents would do and get you behind the 8 ball and scramble, I want to help you do that right now. You guys can read the comment from Parker for yourselves. He's just giving you examples of things that they can do, right? But buyers aren't going to know this stuff. It's not going to ease their internal dialogue until they've actually picked up the phone and had the conversation. So you're going to have to make it feel like it's not like some hardcore, it's not like the car dealership. Everybody has a reference point with that. It's not the car dealership where they're going from the car deal, from the sales, and they go into what car dealers, by the way, call the box. You know that feeling when you go into the finance office and the finance guy or the finance lady is like closing you on all this stuff and you're like, I just want to sign the paperwork and I want to buy the car. Why do you keep going on with this, right? And then at least that's what's going on inside your mind. And so people get all defensive and they're like, and then they walk out buying way more than they probably should have. I know because I used to be that guy, by the way. I was in the box. I was the guy closing people. The point I'm getting at here, guys, is it's not the same, but that's the frame of reference that the average American has. That's what they think when they're going to call the finance guy, that we're going to have this hard conversation and somehow he's going to rake me over, right? That's not true. And you have to be you have to influence them. You have to sell them on why it's a good idea to get this conversation started so that we can have a better flow for you. I want you in the driver's seat. The best bet for you to be in the driver's seat is to do that right now. By the way, speaking of the car business conversation, I was looking at buying an RV. I was in the RV business. 2 years. Not a very long time. All right, here we go. Sorry. My keeps popping me off of here. I apologize for that. We're back. One of the best tips, and a lot of people know this, maybe not a lot, the smart ones know this about money, that if you want to buy a car, go get your loan at the bank that you work with, or credit union is usually the better place. Go to a credit union, get pre-qualified. You can literally walk in with a check, and then you take away all that angst. Just like that. Rather than get into a corner with your house, the absolute biggest investment the average American makes, rather than do that with your house and your mortgage, the roof over your head, don't get put in a box. Go get your loan stuff straight. That way you know what you're working with. You're going to have to sell it. You're going to have to communicate it. You're going to have to influence buyers on why it's so important to get this piece of the puzzle started now. So when we get together on Thursday at 4 o'clock, we got a game plan. Or we have the pieces necessary to help you create a game plan. So that's the mechanics for tonight. I went a little longer than I normally do, but that's okay. I trust it was useful for you. If you need anything from me, feel free to reach out. Unshakable Agent is rolling. We're starting to get some more folks. I'm looking for 20 people to take me on for a performance guarantee, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to double your business in 1 year, or I'm going to lose a tremendous amount of money. So I'm going to $4,500. That's what I'd lose if you don't perform, double your business in a year. $4,500. So in any event, folks, don't let this be a mental exercise. Go do something with it. Get recommitted to the outcome. Clarify your outcome. What am I doing so I can get focused and be I own my stuff. And then from there, make sure you're doing a really good baton pass for the finances, because people are already freaked out. We're already scared as a society. Let's be that person let's be the Sherpa that guides them from one step to the next. Hand them to the lender, and then make sure you get them back at the same pace that you gave them. All right? Anyway, I'm Spencer Combs, your Unshakable coach. Keep well, keep moving forward, and I'll see you guys at the next appointed time.